BTS's Jin smiles at the Empire State Building, but is it smiling happily or harboring unspoken wounds? What's really going on behind the lights for Echo? Why did Jin refer to the moment as unforgettable, but was seen holding back emotions while with Jimmy Fallon? What's up with fantastic fees and secret whispers leaked backstage? It's not just a story about light, it's about wounds hidden in color. BTS's Jin shares his experience at the Empire State Building with Jimmy Fallon, but here's a shocking fact revealed. The eyes of the world seemed to pause as BTS's Jin stood at the top of the Empire State Building, welcoming the night of May 21st, 2025 with a gentle smile and a heartwarming voice. The legendary skyscrapers changing colors: the blue of hope, the pink of love, the yellow of joy, and the white of new beginnings, all represent the theme of her second solo album, Echo. A moment that seemed like a fairy tale. However, is everything really that beautiful? Is Jin really smiling because he is happy, or is he hiding tears that no one can see? Why is it that when sitting with Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show, he refers to the moment as something I will always remember, but the look in his eyes turns wistful and his sentence hangs in the air, as if holding back something that should not be said directly? Is this a sign that the moment that seemed like a celebration harbored a drama that was never known to the public? When the lights came on, the fans cheered, calling out the genie's name like a spell. He responded with a smile and the song Don't Say You Love Me, performed live with great vocal power and feeling. But it was precisely from those notes that a hanging question arose that touched the New York sky that night. Were the lyrics he sang an honest expression of the wounds he was hiding? Was the song not just part of the album, but rather an open letter about something that had just happened, or perhaps that he was secretly struggling with? The next day, while appearing on The Tonight Show, Jin shared her experience with Jimmy Fallon. He told me about how he felt touched, and how incredible it was to see the iconic building lit up with the colors he chose himself. But there was one thing that didn't go unnoticed by ARMY around the world: the change in Jeannie's expression when Jimmy Fallon asked, "Is everything going according to plan?" Jin replied with a chuckle, turning his face away for a moment, then said quietly, "Mostly, yes. Mostly? Not entirely?" Why didn't the genie answer steadily? Was there a part of the night that didn't go as it should have? An internal source who did not want to be named said that there was tremendous pressure behind organizing the lighting event. The Empire State Building is not the usual location for album promotions, and the cost of renting the lighting system and the entire logistics management reaches a figure that leaves anyone flabbergasted, supposedly more than $2 million for just one night. Is it true that this is all fully sponsored by HYB, or is Jin using some of his personal funds to realize his dream? There were also rumors that the planned lighting was almost canceled one day earlier due to a sudden schedule change from the building's management team that rejected visual demands from HYB. Several officers at the scene revealed that loud discussions took place between HYB representatives and Empire State Building officials. Jin, who was in the middle of the chaos, was said to have asked for time alone in a closed room before returning to appear calm and professional in front of fans. However, the drama of the evening did not stop there. A behind-the-scenes video that went viral among fans showed Jin talking on the phone in a very different tone than usual. "I've done all this, do you understand?" he said, in a restrained voice. The video immediately provoked speculation. To whom are these words directed? Is it to someone from HYB, or to someone more personal? There is also a theory that Echo is not just the name of the album, but a symbol of something deeper. In an interview, Jin once said that the album is a reflection of the old voices that continue to resonate in him. Some fans are convinced that Echo is a symbolic farewell, not to BTS, but to a part of her former self. And the night at the Empire State Building was a form of emotional funeral for a past he never made public. Jimmy Fallon, known for his cheerful and playful style, looked more discreet that night. He even refrained from asking too deeply when Jin mentioned, "Everything I did that night, I did for someone who couldn't be there." The sentence that immediately made the ARMY around the world send thousands of messages full of emotion. Who is the someone he means? Is there a loss that has not yet been revealed? When the show was over, Jin returned to the hotel without much to say to the media. He just waved to the fans and one time said, "Thank you for coming. You have no idea how important you are to me tonight." But that night, a hotel attendant revealed that Jin did not return directly to his room. He sat for a long time in the lounge, wearing a dark hoodie, and looked out the window. Some of the staff said he appeared to be crying, although none of them were brave enough to approach. I guess he's just tired. But after seeing on TV that it was his special night, I'm sure it wasn't just physical exhaustion. It was like a heart trying to heal. A hotel employee said quietly, "The army is now divided in various speculations." Some believe Jin is conveying something very personal through this show, but is shrouded in his trademark professionalism. Others were angry at HYB for allegedly forcing such an event in Jin's not yet fully emotionally stable condition after returning from military service. There was also another shocking rumor circulating in the international fan community. Reportedly, Jin did not initially want to perform live that night. The original plan was just music video playback and symbolic lighting. But the sudden change said to have come from pressure from the Tittle sponsor at the last minute forced Jin to perform live. Is this the real reason why he seems emotional? Is there a decision that he does not agree with, but he still has to live for the sake of professionalism? Jimmy Fallon closed the interview segment that night with a phrase that made ARMY's heart rumble again. "Jeannie, you brought the light that night. But we know that even light needs darkness to shine. Thank you for keeping shining for us." And the genie, with slightly glazed eyes, only smiled and bowed deeply. Without additional words, is a smile a sign that everything is okay? Or was it the last form of kink that almost collapsed? Did we really see it all that night at the Empire State Building? Or is there another story that hasn't been told? One thing is certain. The evening was not just about the lights burning from New York's tallest building, but it's also about the light that tries to continue to live in the heart of someone who once fell and chose to rise again, even with wounds that have not healed completely. Since none of the official parties spoke up, the speculation space ran wild. Some fans observed that in the video of Jin's live performance while singing "Don't Say You Love Me," he stares intensely at the New York night sky, as if looking for someone. That look is no ordinary look. There is something hidden behind it. Longing? Lost? Or is it precisely a hidden message that only certain people understand? When the song reached the last verse, his voice trembled, and 1 second before the song was over, Jin's lips seemed to say something silently. His mouth movements were barely noticeable, but fans who slowed down the footage believed Jin said, "I wish you were here." Who does he mean? Why didn't he deliver it directly? Some said it was for the other BTS members, especially Jimin, who was said not to be able to attend due to personal reasons. But not a few also think that Jin is referring to a much more personal figure. Ex? Old friend? Or maybe someone who has been present in his life, but now he can't reach it anymore for reasons that only he knows. Even more surprising is when Jin mentions that the entire visual concept of the Empire State Building is not the work of HYB's creative team alone, but he designed it himself, in silence. Every color has a meaning, not for promotion. For me, he said on The Tonight Show. The sentence shocked Fallon and the audience. If it wasn't a marketing strategy, then why did Jin insist on doing all this on such an incredible scale? A former creative designer who worked with Jin on Project Astronaut last year said that Jin likes to hide personal messages in visual elements. In previous projects, Jin added a star pattern that was not officially explained, but later it was discovered to be a symbol of the last location he was with someone before being drafted into the army. Do the lights in the Empire State Building have the same meaning? This theory is reinforced by the fact that the sequence of the flame of the lamp starts from blue, then to pink, then yellow, and finally white. It was like my journey, Jin said. But what kind of journey? Blue hope, pink love, yellow joy, then white as a new beginning. Isn't it like a finished story and someone trying to start again from scratch? Is the genie actually talking about the end of something? Could this be a symbol of farewell that he could not say directly? A source who attended the technical rehearsal before the event said that Jin had stood for a long time on the observation deck before the ignition began. He didn't talk to anyone, just looked up at the sky with his hands in his pockets. It's like someone is trying to hold something back. But the tears kept falling too, said the source. When asked by staff if he was okay, Jin simply replied, "It will be fine after." That night was supposed to be the culmination of a celebration, but it leaves a lot of questions hanging. Questions that were not answered directly by Jin were also never explained by HYB's management. And therein lies the strength of the entire moment, a silence louder than any announcement. After the event ended, Jin did not immediately return to the hotel. He chose to walk, accompanied by only one bodyguard, down the west side of Manhattan. An amateur video shows him walking along 34th Street, wearing a gray hoodie and a black hat, without a conspicuous escort, only his head lowered and hands in his pockets. He looks like anybody. But behind that simplicity, there is a face that holds something. Fans who followed him from afar said Jin paused briefly outside Macy's, staring at the street lights that began to dim. Then turn around. Did not enter his hotel. But towards the Hudson River, IT was there. According to one eyewitness, that Jeannie sat on a park bench, staring at the water reflecting off the city lights, and put her phone aside untouched. There was no social media activity that night. No beberse updates. No selfies from behind the stage. That there is only silence. And many ask, is the genie saying goodbye to its own old version? Of course, this is not about retirement directly. But perhaps, and this is even more heartbreaking, Jin is preparing to start a new phase in which he can no longer give everything to the public. A phase in which he keeps more to himself. A phase in which not all smiles need to be shared, and not all tears need to be explained. The interview with Jimmy Fallon ultimately felt more like a veiled confession than just an album promotion. When Jimmy asked if he was happy to return to the music scene after his military service, Jin simply smiled and replied, "I'm back, but not in the same way." What does "not in the same way" mean? Does that mean Jin feels like he has completely changed? Or that this industry has changed and is no longer fully welcoming it with open arms? Another question arose from a fragment of the interview that was not broadcast in full on TV, but was recorded by the audience in the studio. In the piece, Jimmy had joked, "You light up the Empire State, Jin. What's next? Lighting up the whole city?" Jin replied with a very brief chuckle, then said, "I might light up my own world next." The answer is simple, but for some people it's code. Code that the genie no longer wants to burn himself to warm others. He wants to make his own world shine, not for the sake of a career, not for the sake of numbers, but for the sake of his soul, which may have been tired for too long. Some industry insiders have also begun to speculate that the Empire State Building's lighting ceremony may be a symbol of a silent farewell between Jin and the idol figure he has built over the years. Jin Young used to be someone who wanted to always be cheerful in front of the camera. But that night, we saw a real genie. Someone who is not performing, but is talking through the light, said a music reporter from Korean media who was present at the scene. And now, a big question arises that no one has been able to answer. Maybe even the genie herself. If Echo is a voice coming back from the past, what happens if that voice no longer wants to come back? Is this the end of a finished chapter? Or is this the beginning of a story that could never be told before because it was too painful? One thing that cannot be ignored is the content of the song, "Don't Say You Love Me." The lyrics are not just about love leaving, but about someone trying to close an old wound that keeps gaping, even though the world keeps asking for it to stay strong, keep smiling, stay there. And in the last verse, Jin sings it so quietly, as if he himself wants to believe in what he said. Maybe silence is the kindest goodbye. That sentence, now, feels like a projection of the whole night. Maybe that's why he didn't make a big speech. No crying in front of the camera. Do not wave too high. Because Jin doesn't want to make this moment about crying or nostalgia. He wanted to make it about silence. About echoes that can only be heard if we really listen. And if there really is something he wants to say, then he has said it. Not with words, but with color. With lyrics, with a gaze, with an unforgettable night. But are we really listening to him? Or are we still too busy looking for other meanings that may never actually exist? To date, HYB has not released an official statement regarding the meaning behind the Empire State Building lighting ceremony. They only mention that this is part of a global campaign to introduce Echo. The army knows. They know Jin are not people who do things without meaning. He is not just a figure who appears for the sake of promotion. He's an artist. And every artist knows Behind his best work, there is the deepest pain that he hides. The question now is, will Echo be Jin's last album? Or is it just the beginning of an art form that is much more personal and painful than before? One of the lighting staff of the Empire State Show said, "The genie asked that the last light that came on was white."